Hi, this is Jeff Burk with Remax Vision in Central Massachusetts. We now have offices in Worcester, Shrewsbury, Leominster, and Westminster, I'm glad to report. But I'm here today with Kathryn Acciari from Central One Federal Credit Union, and just to take some time to discuss how to win in this current market, especially for buyers. How are you?
It's great to see you, Jeff.
You
I'm doing
too.
well.
Good.
Yeah,
So what are you bringing
thanks.
us today?
Thanks for having me back. Well, I'm seeing a lot of trends emerge in the current market conditions that we've had, and I thought it'd be helpful for buyers to hear what's going on and get some tips about how to succeed and win the home.
Good, good. That's what we need.
So the first thing I have to say, and this is in any market, the first step toward winning is talking with a loan officer and knowing what your purchasing power is. With the internet, of course, all our eyeballs are on the eye candy that's out there, the homes, and it's easy to get distracted and look at listings and dream about the house that you want.
Right.
But when it's actually time to get out and get serious about looking for a home, you want to know what your purchasing power is, and that's the job of the loan officer, to really sit down with you, look at your finances, go through your credit, and talk about different loan programs that could benefit you.
And you're really, especially with a first-time buyer,
Yes.
you're really trying to educate and guide them and consult them as to what might be the best product or how to get there.
You're absolutely right, because they have different goals. They may not have a big down payment, or the monthly payment may be the priority, or the closing costs. They may need some help with closing costs.
Right,
So we'll look at all those factors, look at programs that have incentives and benefits, and then look at what their monthly expense could be,
right.
and make sure they're, number one, comfortable, and number two, in line with what the market conditions are.
And are you finding, because rents are so high, especially in this area,
Yes.
and increasing, they're not going down, they're just increasing. Are you finding that, especially again with the first time buyer, that they're looking at what they're paying on a monthly basis and saying, why am I doing this? I should be owning a piece of property. I should be investing
Yes.
in my home.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. What an incredible set of circumstances we have. Uh, Rents have gone up, demand for housing is up all over the state, whether it's rental or ownership. But yes, when your rent goes up and you're looking at another year of paying a higher rent, and you think that you have the budget to own your own home,
Right.
that's a motivation for many buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last time we talked, you had a couple of products, especially for entry level homeowners.
Yes.
Are they still available?
Absolutely. Yep, we have our first time home buyer program, which is minimum 3% down payment, but also offers some flat fee closing costs, which ends up being several thousands of dollars of savings for the buyer. We also pay mortgage insurance if the buyer doesn't have a 20% down payment, we'll pay their mortgage insurance for them.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often, having that savings on your monthly payment is comparable to having a lower interest rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And from what I understand, in a multifamily situation, the down payment requirements have been lessened.
Yes.
So you can get in now with only 5% down.
Right. Because a lot of people are thinking, well, if I'm going to buy real estate, I may as well buy a 2 or 3 family home.
Right. Yeah.
And up till now, the down payment was 15% or higher.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's come down to 5% to kind of meet the demand and the expense that we're seeing in the market.
Right. And I believe also that they've increased the jumbo loan amounts.
Oh, yes, yes, by county. So those, they do vary by county, but where it used to be around 600,000. Now you're seeing $700,000 and $800,000 higher limits for jumbo loans, and the interest rates on jumbo loans are often comparable to a standard 30-year fixed. So
Oh,
we're not
really?
seeing those exorbitant
Yeah.
interest rates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone who's looking to step up
Yes.
to their next property.
Yes. Yes. Wouldn't have that added 1 or 2% that we might have seen in past
Right.
years.
Right.
Yeah, so there's been some nice changes in financing to help people deal with the market.
Yeah, I've seen different programs that seem to have come about in reaction to the fact that the rates have gone up a bit. They seem stabilized now, but
Yes.
again, just to help people get into those properties
Sure,
and be able
sure.
to purchase.
It's interesting though. I mean, I'm sure you see this all the time where we have such demand that the prices have stayed up, right? Basic economics, supply and demand. Low supply, high demand
Right.
means high prices. But now we also have higher interest rates,
Right.
2 and 3 times what they were a year and a half ago. But people still want to own homes.
Right.
And here in Central Mass, aren't you amazed at the draw? Now there's more jobs here, more young professionals. The college grads are staying
No, it's
instead of going to Boston.
you just mentioned about the rates going up, but these are more normal rates.
They are
Right.
historically.
So it's
yes.
like I don't expect them to go back to 2 to 3%, but these are
No.
more normal. This is what we're really used to.
You're right. You're
But
right.
when we list properties, we do find that probably at least half the potential buyers that come through are not from the local area. They're from
Okay.
outside the area.
Yeah.
They're coming from the east
Okay.
because they're hearing so much about Central Mass and Worcester and what's available.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't have to be, even if they work in Boston, they don't have to be in the office every day.
Exactly.
It might be 1 day a week, or it could be, 5 days a month, or twice a week, or whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll use the train, the
Yes.
commuter rail for that.
Oh, and the access to the T has
Right.
grown as well.
Right. Right.
So yeah, Massachusetts is just blooming, I think.
It's been good.
Yeah. Now, what are you seeing on the real estate side for suggestions when buyers want to make an offer or negotiate?
We're seeing it level out right now,
Okay.
and what we're experiencing is there isn't that overwhelming amount of competition. When you're so, in other words, if I have a
Great.
buyer and I bring them into a property and then I follow up with the listing agent, and I'll typically ask, are there any offers on the table? Are you creating a deadline? How are you handling?
Okay.
And what we're finding currently is the fact that there isn't that need. You don't need to get that offer in right away, which is kind of nice for the buyers because it gives them a little breathing room.
Yes.
And they can actually say, hey, let's go back a second time
Okay.
before
Yeah.
we actually make that offer. So it's a little bit more relaxed.
Okay, that's nice to hear.
There are those occasions where a particular property that comes on the market, it might be a little bit more hurried, only because that particular property, based on what it's priced at,
Yes.
is drawing in more buyers.
Okay.
But it's not the norm anymore like it was, 8 months ago,
Sure.
a year ago.
Sure.
So it's a little bit more relaxed, which is
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
So I think that the best part, as like you were saying earlier, is working with the buyer to get them pre-qualified. They know what their comfort zone is as
Yes.
far as the monthly payment and what the down payment requirements will be,
Certainly.
so that if we have more of that time to really look at the properties, then they feel that much more comfortable to finally say, okay, this is the one. I want to make the offer.
Sure.
Let's see if we can get it to work. And then we just try to find out what the situation is. Where is that property at? Are there any offers on it?
Okay.
And then we use that information in order to say, okay, how are we going to format our offer?
Excellent.
How are we going to strategize to try to make this work so that we can reach the goal of the client?
And to me, that's one of the great values of having a real estate agent on your side is what's happening in the market and what the listing agent and the sellers are going to be looking for. So in a situation where maybe you don't have competing offers, you're going to advise the buyer differently than if there are competing offers.
Right.
So if there are competing offers, how does a buyer win? What would you recommend?
What we typically try to do, of course, if there's competing offers, is price. You try to be as strong as you can on price. Again, based on their comfort zone.
Okay.
And then the other part of that, of course, is the down payment.
Okay.
Okay, what do we want to put as far as the down payment and their financing? And I always suggest that they do an inspection. Even if we do an inspection, which is going to be for our information, but at least they get an inspection done and they know what they'll be dealing with once they own that property.
Yes.
And sometimes that will work against us, but I always feel that much more comfortable if they're doing one. And if they decide that they're going to waive it, then that's their call, and they have that right.
Sure.
But I always advise them that we should at least do something, again, if it's for their information. Let's get as much knowledge about that property that we can get.
And it's an education.
It is.
It's just that home inspection.
Yep.
Especially for a first-time buyer,
Right.
but even for a repeat buyer, having that reintroduction into how the systems work, how a home works, what's behind the scenes, beyond the hardwood floors and the granite.
Exactly, right. Yeah. What's in the attic?
How to maintain it,
Right.
yes.
Is it ventilating correctly, that type of thing.
Yeah.
The boiler that they told us is 5 years, is it really 5 or is it 15? All that stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic advice.
Right.
Great.
And I think that's, especially walking through with buyers through a property, you try to sort of give them information as far as, okay, the information sheet I'm reading says this, but what I'm seeing might be a little bit different. It's
Sure.
correct, or no, I think this actually might be an older boiler or whatever the
Exactly.
situation might be.
And you want to be prepared for that potential expense.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So what would you recommend as far as mindset goes? Because sometimes I'll talk to potential buyers and they'll just be disappointed. They'll have imagined what their home is going to be, and then they get into the market and the reality is not quite as wonderful. How do you guide them?
When I meet with someone that and I start to work with them, I tell them they're going to be disappointed.
Okay.
They're going to be disappointed. They're going to be frustrated. They're going to be upset. It's going to be emotional, especially when we were going through the market 8 months ago.
Yes.
And I would just tell them that's the way it's going to be.
Okay.
And we might have to go through, 5, 10, 15 different offers before we actually secure something.
Okay.
And I also tell them it's not necessarily a bad thing, as disappointing as it might be each time.
Sure.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, because going through the process, they learn something new every time.
Sure.
And I also warn them that they're going to get very frustrated with me.
Okay.
Because it's going to be a result of the market, and I understand that.
Yeah.
And I won't get upset by it.
Okay.
But you'll be frustrated with me, the process, and everything about it.
Yeah. But it can happen.
But it can happen.
Yeah,
and
it
a
can
matter
be
of fact,
successful.
I worked with a sweet young couple. We just closed last week on their property.
Great.
And it made us realize that every property they didn't get, there was a reason for it.
Okay.
Because they ended up in something that they actually could grow into.
Oh, see?
Where every other property we were looking at was really a little bit tighter. They were going to make it work.
Okay.
It was going to be okay. They have one child. Well, we can stay here for 5 years. Where the property that they ended up getting, they feel as though they're going to be there at least 10 to 15 years.
What an
because there's more
incredible
space to
story.
it, and,
Yes.
and it works.
Yes,
So.
yes. That's fantastic. Thank you for offering those insights. Because I only hear a little bit of it being on the loan side,
Right,
of
right.
what's happening with the buyers.
yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is, well, if you aren't finding the home of your dreams, but you find something that's close, just ask, is this a place where you can make your dreams come true?
Right.
And the couple you were just talking about, it sounds like absolutely they will be able to do that.
Right. I mean, it wasn't 100%, but it was certainly more than what they expected.
Yes.
Yeah. And that other, there might have been 10%, 20% of what they didn't get.
Sure.
But they were like, we're fine with that.
Okay.
And
Okay. That's
we'll
great.
we'll work on that.
Okay.
We'll do the kitchen. We'll do the
Yeah,
bathroom or
yes,
whatever
yes.
over time.
Yeah.
But again, it gave them the end result was much better.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful. I think that's a fantastic story. Any last tips?
Last tips. No, I think I think the most important tip that I could probably give is because we hear there's so many gimmicks out there today.
Yes.
And you hear them,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
I sure
hear
do.
them.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing is you really need to work with somebody that is a professional.
Mm-hmm.
You need to work with somebody, whether you're buying or selling, going for a loan, someone you feel as though is really just giving you the facts, isn't yesing you to death, but is actually guiding you. Listening to what your needs are as far as the client, and then taking that information and saying, okay, I think this is the best way that we can accomplish your goal. And I think that's, again, someone that's professional, that you're comfortable with, and you feel as though is really being honest with you, because that's really what it takes. And to be in the business for so long, that's what you depend on, because you want those referrals.
Absolutely. Yeah. And having professionals to guide you and who actually do care and will celebrate your success, there's nothing that compares to that.
Right. What about you? Do you have any tips, any best thoughts? Or
My biggest tip is really just take the time to know what your budget is and what you're comfortable with and how it aligns with the market.
Right.
Take a realistic view,
Yeah.
and it'll work for you.
Good.
Yeah.
And so if anyone out there is interested in finding out a little bit more about what options are out there, again, it doesn't matter if you're a first-time buyer, you're moving up to the next home, you're thinking about refinancing, certainly reach out to Kathryn,
Oh, thank you.
and she'll be happy to help you.
Yes, I am. Very happy to help.
And thinking about listing, selling, buying, certainly give us a call at RE/MAX Vision. Again, we're here in Central Mass. More than happy to help you. Thank you.